Angela Mwirigi, the Director of Digital Financial Services, KCB Bank. Janice Kemoli, partner at Ignition Consortium. Jackie Namara, who's joining us from Uganda, who's the CEO of Iguru Consults. And Katya Nyangi, who is the Marketing and Communications Director at Makini Schools. So you can see the ladies up on screen, and we want to make this session just a little different. We want to invite our audience to participate. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to throw a question to the wonderful ladies on the panel, but I also want you to contribute. I want you to put your questions in the chat. I appreciate that there are two chat functions. One says Q&A and the other one says chat. So sometimes we kind of forget to check both. So use the chat function. That will make it easy for us to track the questions. And if you have a question that's going to either any of the panelists or to a specific panelist, then put it there and you get a chance to ask. And we do it as the session is going. Don't wait until the end. Ask as the session is going. Right. So we get started. Welcome, ladies. Jackie, I'll ask you to unmute your mic. Angela, Katya, just unmute your mics because you're all going to go straight into it. I'm going to start with Angela. Angela, 30 seconds.
How did I know you would do that?
Yes, I had to. 30 seconds of introduction. Who is Angela? What brands have you worked with? What are you doing now?
Okay, I'm Angela Mwirigi. I work for KCB Bank. That's the brand I'm working on now. Before that, I was working for East African breweries. I worked on Malta Guinness. I worked on Alvaro. I don't know if that's still in the shops. I worked on Guinness. Yeah, Janice is laughing because she understands what I'm saying because she has worked there as well. I have worked for Henkel. I've sold parcel detergent, soap. I told people, when you're a marketer, you can pretty much sell anything because I've sold from soap to detergent to toothpaste to beer to money, everything and anything. There is nothing we cannot sell. So I've been around for a hot minute, about 20 years of doing this. I have worked for multinationals. I've worked for local businesses. It's been a very exciting career so far. Right now, I have switched from working with marketing throughout and I'm selling digital financial services, which I think is the next frontier on financial services. And I'm really looking forward to how we can change the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Same question to you, Katya. Who's Katya?
Yeah, great. So I think compared to Angela, I'm like the new blood in the market. And my journey started working actually at what was Chase Bank, now CBM, in customer care. Then I veered off, now went more into what I had studied in journalism, ended up teaching. This was back in Moscow. When I got back to Kenya, I got into a project in communication, in education, and that's how I got into education. And I've been now there over the past 5 years, went into both comms and marketing. So just like Caroline earlier said from APSA, she was actually an accountant and now she's a marketer. I think many of us have had such a path, but those who are now getting into higher education now, they're actually they're choosing marketing as a career. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the session. Currently in education, for those who are in touch, we are working on our 2021 plans, given the latest directives from the Ministry of Education just a couple of weeks ago.
So did you stay in Russia? You mentioned you were teaching in Russia?
Yes, I was a journalist and teaching as well. I'm half Russian, so that's my motherland. And yes, I was there for some time.
All right, so put in the chat box, how do you say marketing in Russian?
Actually, it's just the same, but you have to pronounce your R's very significantly, like marketing.
Marketing. Have I got it right?
Yeah.
Sure. Right. All right, cool. Thanks, Katya. Jackie, same question to you. Jackie, have we lost you? Jackie, there you go.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Who's Jackie? Tell us about the brands you've worked with. This is how you know we are live.
Yes, so hi everybody. My name is Jackie Namara. I've been around the block, so to speak. I started out my career with Unilever. I don't remember how many of you still remember that Unilever used to be called East Africa Industries. So I actually spent the first almost 1 year in Nairobi as a management trainee. So I have very fond memories of being a young marketer during that time. And I have since been in beverages with East African breweries here in the Uganda office, telecoms with Airtel and Vodacom, or Vodafone as it's called in this part of the world, and then with Stanbic. I am currently running my own consulting firm, Iguru Consult, where we help companies to build their marketing and communication strategy. And I also teach marketing at the Uganda Management Institute and at the Matt Abacus Business School, supporting the students who have signed on for the MBA online program with the University of Edinburgh. So a little bit of everything, so to speak. And I'm passionate about health education, particularly around diabetes, because our son is diabetic. So those are some of my passions, and nice to be here.
All right, thank you, Jackie. Janice, over to you.
Loving the energy. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. I think I fell in love with marketing about 30 years ago, or is it almost 35, when I was in university. Just to show you how long ago that was, Reagan was the president of America. That's, yeah, some time back, or sometimes back, as we like to say. I love marketing. I strongly believe that as Africans, we can build brands so long as we partner with the right global experts. I'm very passionate about it. If anyone knows me, I've worked for a plethora of brands, but I must admit that I've always loved FMCG more than the service industry. Sorry, Angela and Katya. I love watching brands being born, people picking up from the supermarket and using them and consuming them in their homes. That gives me a lot of joy. Yeah, so from Coca-Cola to Colgate, FCIM, Ajax, Kenya Breweries, Tusker. There are quite a number of brands, but like I said, my heart really sits in FMCG. I did have the privilege of learning marketing in university, and I'm very passionate about technical expertise in regards to our craft. Right now I'm doing consulting for medium-sized and large family businesses, Kenyan companies, and I'm very excited about that.
All right, good. And we already have a comment from Patricia. Patricia is asking, ladies, please leave your links, your LinkedIn links. So if you get a moment, get your LinkedIn link and put it in the chat. That's a fantastic way to network and we can all connect. And I am going to start by doing exactly that. There's mine. So please feel free to connect. And I know Janice, Angela, Katya, and Jackie are going to do exactly that. All right, let's go to our first question. And by the way, audience, please keep the comments and questions coming because we want to hear from you. We want you to help us ask these wonderful ladies their question. Janice, I'm going to stick with you and I'm going to ask you, what area of marketing do you love the most and why?
I tell you, that's a very good question. I think I really like product management the best because it really looks at the P&L. It's, again, for me, I think that what I love about marketing is the science and the art. Drilling down the insights, finding out what the insights are, managing your P&L, driving sales, not just for the sake of it, but what are your transaction objectives at the end of the day? And then you have a better conversation in the boardroom, so to speak. And the respect for marketing actually grows. Within that, I also love building brands and now creating the desire, creating the moments, the emotions, digging into what is it the consumer is looking for. So both of them for me are exciting. The reason I said FMCG is I've been privileged when I was at Coke to design a lot of liquids and working with companies like IFF and Givaudan. It's amazing how how much technical knowledge goes into producing a liquid and making an orange juice taste like orange juice at the end of the day. So I really loved, unpacking that, the product management aspect, and linking that back to the P&L and having those nice boxing matches with the finance department. So those are the things that I love doing.
Okay, and just staying with you for a minute, what were those boxing matches like?
They were rough. When I worked in, Colgate was different. It was a gentler, kinder, more family type of orientated business. But the world of Coca-Cola was pretty hard. We were the first, they went through a change where they were hiring Africans, and it was a very deliberate effort. So we were recruited because we were African and expected to be extremely competent. And we were now providing thought leadership to a mostly white bottling community. So the Coca-Cola Company is two organizations, and there's a lot of what we call happy conflict to ensure the brand survives. So you have to convince the bottler to spend advertising money, that there really is an opportunity and that the sales are going to come through. So it's quite rough conversations, to be very honest. In the old days, you were allowed to use bad words. Now things have changed. You can't do that anymore. But as I said, I started like 35 years ago. So, but what I learned from that is, and I think it's one thing as Kenyans we need to learn, is not to be afraid of conflict. Passive aggressive behavior is not the best approach. Know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. And I can see Angela really nodding because she's also very good at that as well. Having seen her in different meetings, she has a very good, thorough, grounded understanding of the business. And that's why she's able to present the case for marketing at her level. That's very, very critical.
Okay. I can see, Janice, you already have a question coming in. So as you take a minute to ponder on that, I want to go to Katya. I'll come back to the question, Fatima. And Katya, what challenges have you faced as a woman leader in marketing? What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do as a leader in marketing?
Well, yeah, I guess there's different strands to this. There's the marketing, there's the leadership, there's being a woman. And in my context, of course, I'm young, so that's, I found that in a way to be a challenge when you come from a background where you're dealing with a traditional environment, an organization that has been run in a very traditional way previously. So I think going back to the basics, the first challenge was actually creating a culture that understood why communication and marketing was important, the role it played in the institution, and gaining acceptance from your colleagues. So yeah, I think that was one of the major ones for me at the start.
Okay, and is it something that you still find yourself having to deal with?
Yeah, no, so over time, actually, I'm loving the energy we have now because as was just mentioned, showing that it works, using data, people see the result, and you find the community even coming to you with ideas and proposals and being excited about everything. So now it's a more comfortable space. And then of course, for us in education, sometimes the resources are limited in terms of for marketing and comms. So we put it all in one department, comms, marketing, and even sales. So the plus side to this is that you are very clear on the objectives and you're able to follow that customer journey. You have all the transparency and the collaboration required. The minus is that, of course, it can get a bit overwhelming when you're doing it all within that small department. So resources is another challenge.
Okay, all right. And we have a question here from Doris, and I'm going to give Angela this question. And it asks, how did you decide on your niche in the larger marketing world? And I suppose that also ties in with your sort of sidestep to digital financial services. And Doris also wants to know, what are the pros and cons of specializing in a specific area of marketing? You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good, Thrity. Let me understand. Niche in marketing.
Yes.
Choose a niche in marketing. Okay. So here's the thing with marketing. I know there is a lot of disciplines within marketing.
Yes.
And actually, I used to love quizzing my team about that. I would ask them, how many disciplines do you think there are in marketing? Or do you think all we make are posters in here? So there is a need for people to understand what all the different areas in marketing mean, from relationship management to PR to comms. And a lot of it takes a lot of specialization. And if you're going to become any kind of expert in digital marketing, in whichever particular discipline you select to put your expertise in, or product development or brand management, I think the most critical thing is to understand what your greatest strengths are as an individual. So if you're a great communicator, or you're great at commerciality, or you want to be well-rounded, figure out what it is, where do your greatest skills lie. Me, I always tell people, I always work in where I'm most passionate. I do what I feel most passionately about. If I can't feel passionately about it, I cannot see how I will take the interest to learn, because there is no such thing as having all information. You must be willing to learn. And learning is a lifelong experience, and it's a fantastic experience to have. So the first thing you have to do is learn about yourself so that you can understand what it is, where your specialization is, where your best skills are, so that you're able then to leverage those best skills you have in the space you have. Now, there is a fair chance, and I have these conversations with my kids all the time, that it might not be possible for me to know, Mommy, what I want, what I can do. So I say, that's okay, then try many different things until you learn. Like when you're as young as Katya, you can figure out where your niche lies so that you can know what it is you love to do the most. And then you go ahead and specialize in that and become the best at it. And then everybody can always turn to you to ask you about how to get it done. So, and to be honest, the pros and cons don't really exist of choosing a specialization. It all depends on what your ambitions are. So you can become an expert in a particular area, and that becomes what you follow through all the way to the end, to the end of your career. You decide you're going to stick with it. And there is many ways you can leverage it. You can turn around like Janice and decide, I am going to fill this niche, that there is a clear empty space in Kenya where there is no one helping family-owned businesses or medium-sized businesses figure out, because to get the kind of expertise she has in marketing, you'd have to pay that person a fortune. But now she said, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to be able to help all these businesses get my kind of expertise without necessarily having to do full-time employment for someone like me. So there is many ways for you to leverage what you have. What you need to figure out first is know thyself. That's the first place to start.
Wow, I like that, Angela, quite a lot. And we're going to come to a little bit around that. But you mentioned specialization, and you mentioned also being a generalist. And as you progress in your career, what advice can you give the audience? Should they be specializing? Should they become generalists?
That's why I said there is no right or wrong path. Everything is about what works for you as an individual. What is it that gives you fulfillment? What is it that gives you joy in life? After all, it's a very short span. So the least you could do is enjoy the ride while you're taking it. So my advice always to people is, you cannot do this purely for the money. You have to do this also for what gives you joy. I have turned down roles where they're telling me, we think you could do this, you'd be great at it. It's an elevation, we're going to pay you a lot more money. And they go, no, if I do that, I'll die of boredom and it'll definitely kill me. So no, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the sentiment, but no, thank you. I always tell people, choose what works for you as an individual. Learn yourself so that you know how to be happy as a person and how to have a fulfilled life, because it's not just about how many Benjamins you collect, to paraphrase the young'uns. So my perspective, and what I always beg people to do, is know what it is you're good at. Pick a passion and a place you have a passion. By the way, if you have a passion for something, you learn that you get very good at it. Now, I ended up being a generalist and doing it. I didn't pick a particular specialization, and this is why I'm jumping even into DFS. The reason I'm jumping into DFS is because I love all things technology. I'm very keen to see where we could go. I can see this is the future. I'm very interested to see how I could drive it, how I could leverage technology, make it more widely available to people, and see how we can use it to grow our businesses. So there's many ways to skin that cat.
Right. So know yourself and pick the area that you're most passionate about. I think those are the two key points we've got from you. Thanks, Angela. All right. Janice, let me come to the question that Fatima asked, and she's asking, what's the toughest area to work with when it comes to family clients, and what perspectives can we bring to the table as African women?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I know why she's asking that question. One of the toughest things is that you're dealing with actually successful organizations. These are people that are very passionate about their business. It is their livelihood, it is their life, and they're workaholics. So for them to be receptive, you need to be very cognizant of the fact that you're actually helping a business that already exists. They're not at zero. And these are big companies, like, you know, if I have not signed non-disclosure agreements, but they're brands that we're eating, that we're buying, that we're, you know, enjoying. And they've built these businesses over the last 30 to 35 years, or even 50 years. So that's the challenge, is how do you respect the position that they're in and help them to see how to turn the corner? But you have to have a lot of respect for what they've achieved. I have not created a business like that. I have technical competence, but I didn't have what I call the gusto, the courage. They're very courageous people, they're relentless, and they're very clever. So your game needs to be really high. And I'll keep talking about technical competence. If you can't lead with technical competence, it'll be very difficult to actually guide these people. The second thing I'm also learning, because this is my new venture, is accountability and responsibility. It's you at the end of the day. Your project timeline is your project timeline. Finding the courage to say, okay, we're 2 days short, we're 3 days short here. You can't hide behind an organization. It's just me at the end of the day. And the other final thing is not to be afraid, to be honest, of what people think about you. It's so important to be confident about your ability and your value. So one of the things I've learned how to do is to issue invoices. And as women, we don't have a lot of value of self. So I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus, now have I really finished the deadline, the timeline? And now I'm going to have a discussion. They don't pay the invoice when you want it because you didn't send it early. All those things are now sitting on you. And the value you placed is the value you placed at the end of the day. And writing down that number as a woman is one of the biggest things I've had to learn how to do. How do I value myself and value my time and value my expertise and, you know, and run out, even though I might be scared. So those are the things that I've learned, especially because they're their own businesses and they're huge. They're not small companies. Right.
And I think that gives a wonderful perspective to those who are either consulting part-time or want to go into it full-time. So you can take note of that. And Katya has just added on the chat that knowing yourself is a journey and you need time and it's a process, yeah? Which ties in very nicely with the question that I want to ask Jackie. And this question is from, I think it was Sammy. And Sammy is asking, and I think Jackie here, you know, the angle of you being a teacher and a sharer of all this information, what kind of hard or soft skills do you really need as a marketer? You know, Janice has just talked about the technical competencies, but maybe we can focus a little bit more on the softer skills.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the willingness to learn, because in all the places that I've worked, if I had walked in with a closed mind, I would have failed. But I never used to worry about whether I would be able to do the job, because from the marketing side of things, I knew that that was something that I could handle, but they were all different businesses in different sectors at different stages of their development. And so keeping that open mind and being willing to learn and to learn continuously, being able to work and collaborate with various function teams, and especially when you're working in an organization which is not headquartered in your own country, learning also how to work across borders, across cultures, and being able to have the kind of conflict that Janice was talking about. So I've had to go into some very interesting conversations with teams in South Africa, in the UK, sometimes in Kenya, wherever they were, but it was always about saying, you have to trust that in Uganda, I am the Ugandan expert. And therefore, if you're telling me to do something that does not make sense for the Ugandan market, I am not going to keep quiet and just say yes. I am going to push back, because it's about not being afraid to challenge something that doesn't make sense, that you know will not resonate with your customers. So maybe that soft skill is being courageous, or being brave enough to speak out when you think things are not going to work for your market, because you are the one who will be held accountable when things don't go right. They'll say, "What, you didn't say anything about it." Then being able to have a network of sponsors, of coaches, of mentors, people who you can go to when you need advice, people who will advocate for you when you're not in the room. But in establishing that network, and I think Janice has said it, and I will also reinforce it, you have to have your game at a level above everyone else. No one should ever doubt your technical competence, because you want to be the kind of person who, if they say, who will do the marketing piece for us here, your name should be on that, on people's lips, and they should trust that you will do the job. They don't even have to think about it. It's an automatic response, but that requires a commitment on your part to put in the work to keep up to speed. I have a pet peeve at the moment with some of the younger generation marketers. I got out of the corporate world just as digital marketing was starting to take off. And I often show up at seminars and workshops and training on digital marketing, and I'm the only one in the room. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, you're responsible for budgets, you're responsible for P&L bottom lines. Why aren't you in this space? How can you sit with credibility and defend your digital marketing activity if you don't have a basic understanding of how this world works? Because that's where we are going, whether we like it or not. So I would say those are just a few. I'm sure there's so many more, but those are the ones I can share for now.
Okay, great. Maureen says that she's happy Janice has brought up the topic of money because it's a big thing. So it must be a really sticky issue. It's not easy to discuss. Maybe it's more of a challenge for ladies than for men. That could be the theme for another discussion. And Katya has just added on to what Jack is saying. It's important to be brave and around mentorship. Maybe Katya, you can tell us a little bit around mentorship. Do you have a mentor? How important is having a mentor to you? Do you have a coach?
Yes, so I don't have one coach or one mentor, but I realized reaching out and having mentors in the different areas that you know you want to build, and linked to what Angela was saying on knowing yourself is very, very important. And I think we underplay the importance of mentorship. And even as a woman, to have mentors of both genders. So female mentors, male mentors, and you learn a lot from that experience. And also to feed into what has already been said in terms of knowing yourself, I think there was a time I was like, should I have just stayed in journalism? What am I doing, in this space? But with time, I learned that I love the numbers part of marketing. I love seeing how we've converted and seeing that marketing works. And the only time it doesn't work is if it wasn't planned strategically. So in terms of that, now I have that understanding to know that I want to build my skill. And again, we talked about both technical skills and soft skills around that area of marketing.
Okay, and just staying for a bit, Katya, you personally have done, you've put in a lot of investment in trainings, in professional courses. You have a whole list of qualifications behind your name. What should a young marketer really pursue? Is there a specific training for women, or should we look at it in terms of training for marketers? What advice do you have?
Well, I feel that whatever I've managed to acquire has been both formally and informally. And there's things I've wanted to do before that maybe I was not ready for, but I wanted to do them. And then you feel kind of like you're letting yourself down. So what I would tell young marketers, and particularly women, as the conversation is around women, is just use all the resources you have, all the opportunities you have at your disposal. And that opportunity could be as simple as attending such an event. Things that, because for women, we work with lean resources when compared, and data has shown this. We have a lot of responsibilities outside of our workspace, and whether it's with family or if we are mothers, we sometimes feel like we have to prioritize our resources. So you might be wanting to have this great looking qualification, but at the end of the day, it's what can you do and what can you achieve and what skills can you build with the opportunities that are already available, courses, just short trainings where you can then go practice, forums like this and the rest. And again, something I wish, it's not late, but I still wish I learned it sooner, is to ask. Again, in the context of women, we shy away from asking. We're not sure whether we should ask, whether it's for a raise, whether it's for our organization to fund a qualification that we need. We don't know if we deserve it. And we do, so we should ask. And as Susie Oman, for those who know her, she says that your self-worth is your net worth. So you have to believe that you're worthy of the opportunities.
I like that. You should not be afraid to ask, because after all, there are only two answers that you're going to get. It might be a no, but then again, it might be a yes. So what have you got to lose? Right, Katya?
Yes, and if you don't ask, it's already a no.
I like that. All right, let me come to Angela. And Angela, you've had a long career. You've probably reported to different people, both genders. Who would you rather report to? A man boss or a woman boss?
A decent person. It doesn't matter what gender they are. All I want is a decent person who views other human beings as human beings and therefore treats them with dignity and fairness. There is nothing more important than that. But before we go into that, I just want to add on what Katya was saying, because it is so true. I worry for women on this. We wait until we are perfect for a particular role. I always say we have in our organization, we have a women network, and it's called Bold for Change, because women, we wait until we think we are absolutely perfect for something, until we can cross all the T's and dot the I's, and we are very sure that we have every single qualification, while men will jump into that with half the qualifications and learn their way up. And Jackie was also very wise to say, you have to be willing to learn. Therefore, that means you have to be bold. That means you have to ask. It's true. What's the worst that can be said is no. And if you don't, then you already got your no. So I really want women to learn to be bold and fearless. And there is nothing to lose by asking, and there is no judgment really. And that is why even when you ask me which kind of boss do I prefer, me, all I care about is that you're a decent person. If you're a decent person, then you don't judge people. There are many prejudices that come with time. And we are human beings. This is just part of life. Prejudices are based on skin color, race, color, tribe. There's all sorts of reasons that people have prejudices, gender, and so forth. This is just one more. So really the key to ensuring that you get what you want is to put yourself out there. Make the effort, learn, and ask. Ask. I have asked for some things, even me, I paused and said, whoa, that was okay. And still, you get surprised. You're told yes, and you're like, wow, be careful what you ask for.
Okay, so that's another point that you want to take away. Make sure that you ask. If you don't ask, you'll never ask.
You never know then. You might have a perspective on yourself. I don't know if you've heard of Johari's window, the way they tell you that, what you see yourself as, what other people see you, and so forth and so forth. Someone can look it up. It's all over the internet. But the point is that gives you can have a sense of yourself that is not how other people see you. So give people a chance. Don't just assume that they will dismiss you. So give it a shot. I mean, you have nothing to lose.
All right. And Claire is very excited. She says, yay for you saying that you'd rather work for a decent human being than choosing a particular gender. So that seems to have struck a chord with our audience. Okay, Janet, Janice, let me come to you. Women are said to be emotional, and you know, there are various reasons as to why they're given certain jobs or not given certain jobs. And sometimes it's assumed that women tend to cry when things get difficult. What are your thoughts around this? And have you ever been in a situation where you cried at the workplace?
This was the worst question I wanted to answer. No. But have I, you know, I really sat and thought about it. And I want to be very honest and very truthful. Remember I said I went to school in America, and they really train you on the soft skills in your degree, not just the technical hard skills. So I never cried because of work. It doesn't mean that I don't care and I'm a cold-hearted, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you that I did cry in the office. And I cried when, because you build these really strong relationships, you build the most amazing friendships. And having worked as long as I've had, there are many ups and downs, and I've had people pass away. So twice, I've cried because someone passed away. And actually all of us cried. And Coca-Cola was like that, to be honest. It was hard, but when something is bad, you'll find everybody is in tears because someone passed away. And that's one of the reasons why I love that company so much. You couldn't hold back on your emotion. You're expected to feel the emotion. But to be honest, crying because someone shouted at you in the office was perceived to be a weakness when I was coming up. What I find though, is that when people are crying, I think that they haven't reflected on the day. So I had some very good mentors that would always say, after the day is over, were you left whole? Did you leave someone whole? I've talked about that a lot. And as Angela mentioned as well, if your boss is not decent, who are you speaking to in the organization to say, I'm actually getting harassed over here? So the answer I would rather say is, have I been harassed? Absolutely. I've been, especially in the beginning of my career, I definitely was harassed. Did I handle it perfectly well? Not all the time. There are times I run away from my boss, literally. Like physically, you're running away, getting into the car and saying, I'm out. I don't think I can do this anymore. But over time, and I love what Katya talked about, is learning to ask, and Angela said it as well, be brave enough to ask. This generation is more open. You don't have to keep quiet and sit in your corner. When frustration builds, that's why you cry. Be open, be bold, talk about it, ask over and over again. But find that person that is actually going to care at the end of the day. It's more emotional now. When I was starting up, it wasn't like that. To be very honest, crying was a serious weakness. I mean, the meetings, I'm the only girl. There's no way you can cry, man. You just can't cry. You can't cry. You have to, you know, hold the doma, run to the loo, you do it there, and then you come back. And you have, and Visine was an important item in your handbag as well. Now I think it's a little bit different. It's a bit more open, and there are more avenues for you to ask for assistance and help. But you must ask. Don't sit alone quietly. Things build up and they're worse than you really think they are. I promise.
That's great advice.
Very awful. Angela, did you cry? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, and you're right. It's frustration that causes someone to respond like that, and I don't think it has anything to do with that women are more emotive than men. I don't think it's a case of that, because it's actually an individual thing. And yes, it's true that women, because of how we were brought up, we might have more on the surface than a man would, because they tell boys that you cannot cry from when they are very young. So they learn how to bottle it up a lot better than we do. So it doesn't mean that there is any, in my view, and I agree, there was a time it was considered very weak. So the key to it is to ensure you don't let your frustrations build up until then you're in that situation in an environment you really didn't want to be breaking down. So I don't think that women are necessarily any more or less. It's just how you are brought up, or how you have allowed the frustration to build up until you're not able to deal with it, other than in the environment you're sitting in, which is unfortunate. And that's why I say it's important to work for decent people, because when people are decent to each other, then you don't treat people that badly, so badly. And people have done that. Me, I've seen women make men cry. Yeah. I've seen that even in the organization I work in, and I saw it 2 years ago even. And we were like, oh, this female needs to leave. She's just wrong. She's bad with people and she's cruel, and that is bad. And that, by the way, and that one, if you're in an organization where people treat each other with some respect, they will caution that person never to treat other people like that, because it's not right. You're not supposed to be able to do that to other people. It's a work environment. You're not supposed to do that to your fellow human beings.
Absolutely. Amen.
I love the passion behind those statements. And this takes me straight into a question for Katya. Have you heard statements like, I can't employ a woman in a senior position because she'll get pregnant and she needs to go off on 3 months leave, 6 months leave?
Okay, maybe not specifically senior, but the interesting thing about this point is that women are the ones judging each other like that within organizations. You'll find a woman leader thinking that she might not be wanting to hire someone in a certain role because that might be likely happening. And I think that's the unfortunate thing for me, because we are the ones who are supposed to be championing, eradicating this kind of biases. I've had an experience, this was not in leadership or senior, but it was many years ago, where a woman, and she told me upfront, which in another country you could sue someone for that. And she said that she doesn't think I can, have that role because it would be hard for me to juggle, because I'm also a mother to one girl. And she made the decision for me, basically. So I think for this, the first point is women to women, and then we take it a layer above.
All right, so that means we just, all of us need to look at this whole scenario quite differently. And it's interesting, you say it's women to women. I've heard a man saying, I can't employ someone who's pregnant because they'll go off on leave. Yeah, so I think Angela's point about it really doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. They need to be decent, they need to treat people well. And we've also learned that both men and women cry. So yeah. Okay, let me go to Jackie. And Jackie, this is my question for you. Work-life balance. The word balance sort of suggests that you have work on one hand and life on the other hand, and you're actually able to put them on a scale and balance the two. But I think we are now at a point where there's more of integration. I like what Fatima said earlier in her presentation this morning, where she said she lives at work. Yeah, so tell us a bit about this work-life integration, especially for women.
Okay, thank you. If you'll indulge me just for a minute or two, I wanted to just highlight on what Janice had mentioned about the circumstances where you have, sexual harassment or any other form of harassment happening in the workplace. And I think it's upon us to build a culture where we encourage women to speak up for themselves, but also to speak for others, because sometimes the person who is vulnerable can't speak out for themselves because there are going to be repercussions. And it is criminal for you to be in a position where you can advocate on behalf of somebody and you keep quiet. In your silence, you're complicit. You're actually worse than the person who is committing the crime. And so for me, that really rubs me the wrong way. And we've been in a situation where we had the chief executive of the company who was hurling verbal abuse to several members of staff. And we sat down as the ExCo team. It was one of those situations where you have an expatriate boss and a local management team, and we just told him point blank, I'm sorry, but we don't know where you have been and how you've been working, but our culture here is that we treat each other with respect. And if that is something that is not in your DNA, please let us know, because we can arrange for you to leave. And eventually he got fired because we told him, you're on probation as far as we are concerned as a management team, because we have to shield our direct reports. And if you can't do that simple basic courtesy, then clearly you're not meant for leadership. And he continued in his ways. And so we took it further to the head office and basically gave an ultimatum and said, either he goes or we all go. So we need to have that level of should I say, I don't know that say unity, but if you see something, yes, going wrong, speak up, especially when the person who is involved can't do it for themselves, because the consequences for them have such big repercussions. They might be the single breadwinner at home supporting so many people. Yes. And so they're even scared to say anything. And yet when they come to work, you can see they're physically scared. They can't get anything done. So that's about that. I'll put that aside. In terms of the work-life balance, like you've said, I think we do more integration. For me, I would say it's how much imbalance can you live with, because there will never really be total equilibrium. Something at some point has to give to make way for the other to work. So having a support network is crucial, because if you're a mother, you can't always attend all the school events. Can your partner attend some? You attend some. If it's the things you have to do in terms of running your household, do you have a team of people who can help you to manage certain tasks, to leave you open to do others? If it's family commitments, we had to learn this the hard way, because like I mentioned, our son is diabetic. And so we chose to be open about it from day one. And what that means is every time we have to go out with him as a family, now I don't have to ask people to make special considerations about, the things he has to eat and whatnot, because we are open about it. And that comes from having a community around you that supports you in what you do and knows that you will not be available at that particular function, but someone steps up and says, I will be there, I will monitor him, and I'll make sure he doesn't get into trouble or mischief. And so for that work-life balance, you do need that support system. Otherwise, the next thing you'll know is one side of the scale tips and completely wipes out the other. So what level of imbalance can you live with? And let the people around you know, so that they know when you need the help and ask for help. I'm really bad at asking for help. So I have to make sure that the people around me kind of know the cues of when I'm getting to my breaking point, and they can see it and they step up, but ask for the help when you need it. Don't just suffer in silence.
All right, so back to Katya's point, which was around asking, ask. And I love what you said about having a support network that will actually, give you that cushion that you need, and you can rely on that. Okay, the questions are coming in now fast and furious. We just have 15 minutes to go. We're gonna go really fast. Wesley wants to know, has anyone on the panel ever taken a break from employment and then gone back? Yes, Angela.
Yes, I did. I decided that that I could be a farmer. So when I left employment, I took my money and then I went to Narok and stuck it in a 70-acre wheat field. Got back maybe, I think 0.01% of what I had put in. It was a complete and utter and total loss. And like I said, learn your lessons when you're young, because then I decided, okay, that's it. That year was gone. I'm going to pretend it never happened, and I'm going to go back into employment, which meant now start applying again. When I'd left, I'd actually got into a director role at around 29, and I was feeling very proud of myself, which is why I thought, okay, I've done it all. Let me go try something new. This was not the thing for me. So I applaud farmers, because I think they're the bravest people in the world to stick money in the ground and hope that the rain and aphids and all manner of insects and stuff does not take the money away. So anyway, that said, I think the lesson I learned is that it's fine, you can start again. I had to apply again now as a brand manager, which means roll back your career. And I said, I want to be able to build the skills I had not built, because I might have grown rapidly, but that was simply because I'm good at talking, but I didn't think I had the skills to support the level I had risen to. You can get promoted to incompetence. You do know that. If you do not have the right levels of experience, or even you have not made the effort to learn everything you should have learned. So I actually was determined to join East African Breweries, because they had a great brand management program. And I applied for 2 years straight while I was taking jobs in every other organization until they let me in. And I was determined to learn from their brand management program. And I always tell people the reason I am so confident about my marketing skills is because of the skills I learned working in that business. I mean, they train you and they train you thoroughly. So I said, there's nothing to fear. If you're going to do something crazy, of course, you really should aim to do it when you're young, or as young as you can possibly make it. But there is no danger in trying new directions or trying new things, as long as you have then planned your life to be able to. Unfortunately for women, it is not such a simple decision. Usually there's a lot of family commitments and so on that guide your decision. But when you're young, you should experiment as much as possible to see where does your niche lie, where does your heart lie, what are the skills.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Angela. And I think Angela has also given us another lesson to ponder over, that even when you have a failure, you pick yourself up and keep moving. So that's something that we should also take to heart. All right, we have a question.
Just briefly add to that.
Yes,
I've left voluntarily and not voluntarily several times in my career. So it's not a drama. I mean, I've been laid off, I think 3 times. I've left twice. So for me, careers take time. It's a journey, but you really, really discover that courage. I talked about those entrepreneurs I talked about. And don't listen to your friends if they're pulling you down. You need to really go inside, I think, and really find out, who am I? People are going to talk about you. It doesn't matter. Find that person that really loves and cares about you, that you can go to and they give you the right tough love. So leaving employment, coming back, there's no straight line. That's actually, not everybody's lucky to have a straight line. I never had a straight line, and it's okay. 6 months, I've been out for 2 years, 6 months, 3 months, but I still managed, as Angela said, to learn, because I love marketing. That's what I love doing at the end of the day. There's no shame.
All right. And I think that's why we're all here, with that shared love for marketing. Question, I'll stay with you, Janice. Question from Sami is asking about corporate politics. How do you navigate through it? Sometimes one works very hard, produces excellent results, but the boss then feels like you might replace them. So how do you handle
It's a reality. Organizations have their cultures and their politics. I've never worked anywhere where there wasn't any politics at the end of the day. And one person I know who talks about politics a lot is Joki Dongo. And she's got a very famous line where she says, politics is everywhere. Even in your family, there's politics. So I think it's a myth to run away from it and say it doesn't exist. I think, again, if you're passionate about what you do, and you're learning the life skills, the different skills on how do you give feedback. Oops, sorry guys. Sorry. Oops, sorry. Let me put on my whatever. Somebody has come in. Oops, the noise is gone. Yeah, sorry about that. Oops, sorry. Can you hear them still? Is that better? That's better?
We can hear you. We can
okay, good. Sorry. Yeah. So it's how you learn the skills as you get older. How do you learn the skills on how do you give feedback? How do you receive feedback? It's not just about what you do, it's also about how you do it as well. So that's an important part of the learning, not just the technical side, but how do you live your life at work? And how do you make sure that people know you're not the one that deals with politics? They're different degrees. So you need to position yourself as the one that gets the work done. And where you need to politic, it's true, you do need to, but what are the skills that help people to still follow you? And don't see it as somebody who's definitely trying to create a bad intention at the end of the day. It's kind of a loose answer, but I really believe in, like now, for example, going to the women in boards, women in leadership. There's so many skills I learned there that helped me to learn how to deal with people and start to mitigate against that. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Maybe Janice, you mute yourself for a second.
Yeah, my
Katya, you wanted to weigh in on this discussion around the politics?
Yes, it's quite tricky given the example that was given by Sammy, where it's a boss. So you may be managing and building life skills, but ultimately there'll be that barrier. So for me, what I would say, or how I would look at it, is don't look at the boss or replacing the boss as your end game. Use the environment to work hard, build your portfolio, do the best you can, and it can be then applied outside of that organization.
Okay, all right. Yes, Jackie, you want to also weigh in on this? Please do.
Yeah, I think we've been taught to expect that politics is a dirty word, and that's something we need to really demystify for not just for women, but for everybody. And why is this? Politics just means that there was a lot of work that went on behind the scenes before you come to the point where you're making a decision. And I learned this the hard way in my career, where I always thought, but people can see the work that I'm doing. No, they don't. You have to speak about it. You have to sell it. You have to go and find out what people's interests are, or where they stand, where are the positions, and how do you sell yourself into the position so that you win their support and buy-in for when it comes time to make a decision on whatever it is that you're trying to look for in the organization. And so when you're invited to certain social events, guys get invited to golf clubs or some other sporting activity, and in that space they're able to lay the foundations for what they will then come and apply in the workspace. It's particularly challenging for women because we also have to manage home, so you're not going to always have the time to engage in those activities, and so you have to maximize your time in the workplace. And how can you do that? When it's time to take a break, in terms of a coffee break, go and look for that person who's buying you want on a particular decision. Go and have an engagement with them, but start to build that rapport so that when you need their support in a particular area, they're there for you. But the more you stay away from the politics, the more you're left out of all the key decision-making activities in the organization, and that works to your detriment. So embrace the politics. You can practice at home if you're scared to get into the work ones straight away. See how that works at home, and then take those lessons and see how you can apply them in the workspace.
All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are totally out of time. Before we close, your final words of wisdom, 30 seconds. I want to start with Jackie.
Okay, so I would say for anybody, not just women in marketing, think about what legacy you want to leave behind. So in whatever you do, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be remembered for? And then work intentionally towards that. So if there are things you need to start doing, stop doing, continue doing, if you're guided by that purpose in what you want to do with your life, then that will hold you in good stead, no matter where you go and no matter what you do.
All right, thank you. Katya?
Yeah, for me, for women in marketing in particular, don't shy away from data. Data is your best friend. And for life, how you spend your days, how you spend your life. So the habits we build day to day will give us an indication of where we're headed.
All right, so I know Kate is going to be very happy since she's coming on next, data insights. She'll tell us more about that. Janice, words of wisdom, 30 seconds.
My apologies, sorry. The joys of working at home. I think for me, it's learn and love your craft. Journey of learning is very exciting. And the most important is careers take time. And enjoy the journey. It actually takes time. Very few people end up like Mark Zuckerberg. Most of us, it's a 30-year journey.
All right. Thank you, Janice. Angela?
There we go, sorry. I think I'll just recap my favorites from today, which were ask, just ask. Be bold, don't fear, just be bold and ask. That's what I loved about this session today. So we've can find us on LinkedIn and ask any other questions you have there. There are so many nuggets of wisdom. It's very difficult to pick which particular one can be a guiding light, but I think these are fantastic ladies and I've enjoyed talking with all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.